acids. And remember, amino acids are the Legos that are making up our proteins. So Kadim's not in here, but I did have me my Chinese food. I got me my Chinese food the other day. When was it? Tuesday. So I had Chinese food Tuesday and last night because it's always 2 meals. Had my chicken and really yummy. And the Legos that make up that chicken is what my body's going to break apart. But then what it does is it reassembles those Legos into other structures within my body. And that's how we tell the difference between high and low quality protein. So your high quality protein is going to have a very diverse selection of Legos, different colors, different shapes, different sizes. You can just make anything with them. Low quality protein, like your McDonald's hamburger, are going to have a very limited color, shape, and size of Legos. You can't really make all that much with it. And in fact, your body is going to look at these and goes, yeah, we have too many of these little 2 red ones. Let's just get rid of all the excess. And that's where you have animals who may be fed a low quality, because it's cheap, low quality diet like Ol' Roy. Anything with the word Ol in it, it's a bad food. Don't feed it. You got Ol' Roy, Ol' Yeller. Don't. No, just don't. That's my number 1 rule. If it's got the word Ol, don't. It's not good. But what you're going to see is that the animals are going to be having a lot of feces because their body is saying, okay, well, we have all of these Legos. We don't need any more of these Legos. Let's get rid of it. And so they're going to be having large volumes of stool, probably frequently, several times a day. When you start feeding them a higher quality food, you feed less of it because their body is able to utilize it more efficiently, but you also have less waste because their body is, in fact, using more of it. So that's kind of the difference between our high and low quality proteins. Yeah, did you, so Casey, you had Chinese food last night? Oh, it was fantastic. I always get the exact same thing every time. I don't do the variations. I do my cashew chicken, and I do my crab puffs, and I do my pan fried dumplings, and they're amazing. Tonight I'm making sweet chili. So I don't know where's Rob? Where are you? There you are. Yeah. So here, we're gonna just start calling you beet pizza. Yeah, I'm making some delicious. Yep. Okay, but I agree, Brittany, I agree. It is hot for chili, but this is not like a Texas spicy. This is Canadian sweet chili. And so I can't even describe it. I'll have to show you. It's more of, because I put pasta, little 3 cheese pastas in it. So it's a lot more like a meaty sauce than a true chili. And then what I do is I bake a puff pastry, and I spoon the meaty sauce and the pasta into a puff pastry. Oh, it's just so delicious. So I'll have to show you. It's a weird consistency, but it's lovely and it's delicious, and I've been craving it forever. No, it is chili, Cheyenne. Shut your hole. It's super. Oh, I'm recording. I mean, in a respectful tone, I disagree. Oh my, made me choke myself up there. Oh my goodness. Shut your hole. Oh, no. Well, mine has beans. It has ground beef. It has brown beans. And then it's flavored with like they're maple brown beans and Worcestershire. It's delicious. You don't even know. You don't even know. All right, before I get myself into more trouble, that was funny. Shut your hole. Oh, I laughed too hard. Oh my gosh. Take a drink of my delicious Diet Coke. All right. Oh, that's better. All right, so as we know, just a wee bit of review, because I haven't seen you in like a year and a half, it seems. Amino acids, they're going to be an amino and a carboxyl group. I'm not going to ask you to reproduce the structure. It's just so you have seen it. We know that these amino acids can occur in plant and animal tissue. Now, there are some amino acids that only occur in animal tissue, and you can only get them from eating animal tissue. Hence, obligate carnivores. Cats require these amino acids. They are essential amino acids. They cannot get them from eating plant material. And so they are obligated to eat animal proteins in order to get these. If they don't get these amino acids, very, very bad things will happen. They'll go blind, their heart will fail, their kidneys will fail, and they will die. Death by nutrition. So that's where having the knowledge of the specific needs of the different species is important. However, if you're like, but I'm a vegetarian, well, that's fabulous. You're still getting amino acids from your plant material. But the problem is that some of the amino acids, because we are omnivores, we have nutritional needs that come from both plant and animal sources. You're no longer getting the animal sources. And so what that means is that your body is missing a Lego. Now, fortunately, the Legos that your body is missing can be substituted to a lesser degree. So that's how you can sustain yourself on plants. But optimally, for optimal nutrition, you do need to take in some sort of meat source. We have two different categories, our essential and our non-essential amino acids. Now, this means, do I need to take it in my diet? Essential means I have to take it from an outside source. I have to have it in my diet. Non-essential means I do not have to have it in my diet. It does not mean that I don't need it. It just means that I don't need to take it in my diet because I'm going to have essential amino acids reform and create the structure of the non-essential amino acids. So when we get into our specific amino acids, we're only going to be covering the essential amino acids. And we'll discuss a couple of the important non-essentials and which essentials reassemble to create them. But for the most part, we're going to be going over the essential amino acids. So this is a table from Big Bertha. These are the, so here are the essential, oops. Here are the essential amino acids. These are the ones that we are going to be covering in detail. These will reform, come together. So these are all, each one of these is a Lego. Every single one of these individually is a Lego. And I can take certain Legos and reassemble them to make a new structure. So that's what we're talking about when we say essential versus non-essential. Amino acids are the building blocks, and they are essential to all living cells. Protein is the most abundant nutrient, except for water, in your body. It's the most abundant energy-producing nutrient. And it creates so much stuff, guys. Oh, my God. Remember a bazillion years ago when we were talking about the anatomy of the cell? We have a factory inside our cells whose only job it is to take these Legos and reassemble them into different structures. Those are called our ribosomes. Even our DNA is made of amino acids. So right down to our core DNA dependent on protein. Protein's also going to help regulate our metabolism. So this is important if you happen to be on some sort of weight loss program. Because if you, now I'm not pointing anybody out, I'm not pointing any fingers at anybody, I'm just doing a blanket statement. If you happen to have changed your diet and you are now on a primary vegetarian meal, what you may find is that you are a little bit slower to lose the weight than if you were taking in animal-based proteins. The reason for that is that the protein diversity, your body's going to use them more efficiently, but these proteins also help to speed up and regulate your metabolism. What metabolism is how efficiently is your body utilizing these nutrients. Proteins are going to be a part of our cell membrane construction. They're going to help to create the skin of the cell and regulate what goes in and out. Proteins are going to form our muscles. They're going to help our tissues grow and repair. They also serve as enzymes, hormones, antibodies. We had a great discussion, I think, last week about antibodies and hormones. I think we discussed antibodies in relation to this virus that's going around right now. Proteins are also having the ability to bind with other structures. Legos can bind with anything, so any other Lego. So these proteins can bind with carbohydrates and make glycoproteins, glyco meaning sugar. Proteins can join with fats and make lipoproteins, lipo meaning fats. What's a caniac combo? I don't know what a caniac is. It sounds
Raising Cane's. No?
I don't know what that is either. What is this?
It's a little chicken tender restaurant.
It's like kind of filet taster sauce and stuff, fried chicken stuff.
They charge for sauce. Unnecessary.
I have never heard of this restaurant.
The sauce is not even that good for them to charge it.
True.
I have never heard of this restaurant.
It's pretty
alright.
okay.
It's just chicken tenders. Like,
Yeah,
honestly,
you can make them
that's
at
it.
home.
It's like about 5 minutes away from the from BedTech Institute.
Oh, okay.
Ooh.
Orion, you raised your hand. What question can I answer for you?
Move to America.
Did Orion raise his hand? I thought I saw. Maybe he hit the button incorrectly. Did you accidentally? Did you butt dial it? Oh, by accident. Okay, no worries, no worries. Just making sure if you had a question. And Robert, I am in America. Just because I don't know a stupid chicken restaurant and I make weird chili doesn't mean I don't live in America. So whatever.
It's tough. Your chili actually sounds like I want to try it.
Yes, you do want to try it because it is delicious and it is lovely and
What's
it is not.
You put in it.
Do what?
What's something different you put in it?
Well, I use so ground beef, and then you put in a jar of maple bacon baked beans. You use you can use a tomato paste to kind of thicken it up a little bit. I put Worcestershire, I put Dijon mustard, a little bit of yellow mustard, a little tiny bit of chili pepper, and then I'll usually put a little basil, a little thyme, a little marjoram, just for seasoning. Sometimes I'll even fry up a little extra bacon because you can never have too much bacon. and then you just let it reduce for like an hour, and it becomes very, very thick, but it's thick almost like a spaghetti sauce, like a super thick spaghetti sauce.
Yeah.
And then what I do is I have these little 3 cheese pastas, and I'll cook those, throw some of those in, and then I do sandwich it in puff pastry, because the crunch texture of the puff pastry with the sweet of the meat and the bacon.
Oh, so yours is because you use different beans and then you make some. Yeah. Okay, I see. It's like what we use for Fritos, like little Frito chips. You use like a little pastry.
I'm gonna have to just agree with you on that. You put this on Fritos? That's disgusting. That's
Yeah.
Frito
Yeah,
pie,
it's called a
and it's
Frito
amazing.
pie.
Ooh,
Yeah,
Frito
it's
pie.
really
How
was
have you in
so
Texas
good.
not had a Frito pie?
All right,
No.
Miss Huff, you're gonna have to try that, and I will try your chili if you try a Frito pie.
Yeah.
It's
I
a
think
deal.
we need.
Then the
I
Kool-Aid
think we need
pickles
a class.
next.
Here's-
I think we need a Zoom meeting on weird foods that come from Canada and weird foods that come from Texas or other place we've lived.
There's nothing weird about my chili or poutine. Everyone was making fun of my poutine. Poutine is
Nuts.
delicious.
Miss Huff, you should try Kool-Aid pickle though. Those are good.
No.
Here's what we're gonna do. Casey, get out of my head. Poutine, Brittany. Brittany. I poop. I pop you on the face. Does not sound dirty. Poutine.
The way that you described poutine just made me want to think like I'm not poutine that in my mouth.
You guys just crack me up. I miss you so much when I don't see you. So, Casey, get out of my head. So here's what I'm thinking. The very first thing that we are all going to do when we get back on campus is we're doing a potluck. We're going to do a potluck. I will make my chili. You can make some Frito pie. You can make whatever. And I will do my best to try it. I can't guarantee because it's sometimes a texture thing for me, but we'll do a potluck. And that will be super fun. And that's how we'll celebrate our triumphant return to campus. No, Marissa, poutine is not a dessert. Poutine is fresh cut potato French fries with oxtail gravy and cheese curds. I know it sounds disgusting, but it's delicious. And if you want to try some, if you're ever on this side of town, which now you all know what side of town I live on, there is the best poutine restaurant in the city on Eldridge and Briar Forest, not Briar Forest, Eldridge and Memorial. Eldridge and Memorial. It's called Tubbs Poutine. Testify. Best poutine in the city. They actually have real cheese curds. So
I had that in Mexico too, at one of the resorts we stayed at. They were serving it in Mexico. It was not as good as other places
yeah,
I've
I
had
mean,
it here, but it was pretty good.
yeah, Tubbs is the most authentic that I've had here in Texas. It's fabulous. I go there. I try not to go there all the time because honestly, I'd weigh 1,000 pounds, but it is delicious. So we will do a potluck dinner and I will make you all my sweet chili and I will make you all eat your stupid words. Me. I really have to remember that I'm recording this.
Your chili does sound better than Connecticut chili. They put straight up cinnamon in theirs. And that's
No, I don't do that. That's disgusting.
Yeah.
Now, you can put a little bit of brown sugar, but I find that the maple bacon beans are sweet enough as it is. So I don't put the extra brown sugar because my mom does that and it's far too sweet. It's like sickly sweet. So I don't do that. So that's disgusting. That's gross. That I do agree is gross. All right. So off of food, we talked about this chart before. I do want you to know the recommended proteins. We did notice something interesting last week, that the lactating and pregnant animal needs the same recommended protein as our puppies. So we can support them on a high quality puppy food. This is where I think we ended up. How do we know? How do we know if we are feeding a high quality protein? Well, there are several tests that we can do on the protein to determine what its quality is. Now, a lot of these tests are not something like we could do on campus, right? This is very high techie tech, above my pay grade. But it is important to at least have a basic understanding of what we can do to determine, is this a high versus a low quality protein? So the first test, that there's actually 4 tests that we're going to talk about. The first test is called the net protein utilization, or the NPU. And basically, I think we talked about, this was the one, I think we ended on this one, if I'm not mistaken. What you do, it's pretty simple. You take a protein that has already proven to be of a very high quality. High quality meaning that it has a very diverse amino acid profile. It has a lot of different Legos. And it's very easy for our bodies to break down. It's highly digestible. And our bodies use a high percentage of the amino acids that it contains. It is high bioavailability. The protein that we use is egg. Egg is considered by many to be the perfect protein. Egg protein, almost 100% of the amino acids in eggs are used by the body. Theoretically, okay, now we're in total like theoretical land. Don't try this at home, kids. Technically, if you ate nothing but eggs, you wouldn't really need to poop anymore. At least not the daily poop that we are doing or should be doing right now. You might have to poop every 3 to 4 days, maybe once a week, because our bodies use such a high percentage of this protein, there's nothing left over to be evacuated from the body. But here's the rub. You can't survive on protein alone. You have to have the carbohydrates. You have to have the fats and the minerals and the vitamins, and especially the water. So theoretically, could you survive on only egg protein and not poop? Yeah, you could not poop, but you probably wouldn't survive because you're missing all of the other nutrients. But knowing that this egg protein is already a super high quality, we can take the protein that we are looking at and simply look at the profile and compare it. How digestible is it in compared to egg? How bioavailable is it compared to egg? And so we compare most of our proteins to egg proteins. Egg protein's been given a chemical score of 100. And what that means is, how much of it does your body use? Chemical score of 100 means about 100% of the egg is used by your body. And so this is just a comparative test. We have something that we already know, very high standard. We take what we are looking at and we just simply compare it. How does it stack up? How does it stack up to this egg protein? And so that's our net protein utilization. So I'll give you guys a minute. Take a sip of my Diet Coke. Yeah, and the instructor had the audacity when I emailed him yesterday, when I was like, why did I only get a 90? Can I get some feedback? He had the audacity to email me and say, I would love to tell you, but a 90 is an amazing grade for your first assignment. Congratulations. And I'm like, no, it's not. How dare you, sir? How dare you? I said good day. But I think at that point, he was just super frustrated. he was the quintessential instructor. And so being an instructor, you guys will find this funny. I'm actually gonna pause this for a second. It was just though the quintessential, like, guys, how many more ways can I describe this? I just don't know. I can't do it. And he's like, see my hand right here? So if you go on today and you put all of your fingers down, that means you're done for the term. You don't have to do any more discussions for the whole term. Oh my God. It was just, it was, yeah. 5? Was it 5 that you needed us to do? Oh, it was funny. Ms. Regalia and I were laughing about that last night because, again, we're in the same class, so we sometimes chat about our homework. It was, we were giggling about that. He just was like, guys, I don't know how much clearer it was pretty funny. All right, so the second test is known as the amino acid score. And so basically, this is just a modification of the first test, that the chemical score. Basically, what this test means, the amino acid score, all this means is I am going to go in and I am going to look at the Legos. I'm going to look at what kind of Legos are contributing to the structure of this protein. What kind of diversity do I have? What kind of selection of Legos do I have? Obviously, the greater the selection of Legos, the higher the quality of the protein. The lower the selection of Legos, the lower the quality of protein. So this is just measuring the contribution that these amino acids are making to the overall structure of the protein. Now, these tests are, again, not something we could do on campus. I don't know how to break down a protein to a molecular level and measure the status of the amino acids, which is pretty crazy because my body does. My body does know how to do that. I don't know how. My body takes care of that for me, thank goodness. Show the serial killer books. That would have been funny if I was missing a finger and been like, sir, what do you suggest I do now? Because I don't, you said when all of my fingers are down, but that doesn't give me 5. What recommendations do you have for me? That'd be really funny. Oh my goodness, that would be funny. All right, so the third test is called the protein efficiency ratio. Now, this test is called the protein efficiency ratio because it is testing how efficiently does your body use the protein. What? This one is a little bit of a lower techie tech test. And in fact, this is probably one of the most common tests that they are going to use to measure the efficiency of the protein, to measure the quality of the protein. So basically what we're going to do, we're going to take a little baby weanling rat or a little baby chick. I like to not use the rat, put him over here. So here we have a little baby chick. And we're going to feed this baby chick the protein. Now, again, the minute that I say protein, you guys are all thinking meat source. Not necessarily. What we're doing is we simply have a structure of amino acids. I'm not feeding this chicken a carnivore diet. We tried that once with the cows. Bad things happened. Yeah, we actually did. We'll talk about that later. It was a crazy nightmare. That is still happening. But I have this little baby chick. Now we know that these chicks, if you've ever had a baby chick, oh my goodness, they grow like crazy fast, like insane crazy fast. I wanted a pet chicken so bad, and my HOA said no. But my sister, She teaches, right now she's teaching first grade. So guess what? Her Zoom classroom, super fun. She has 30 first graders all trying to do a Zoom class. But what she does as one of her science is she incubates eggs. And they incubate and they watch them, and this is how they also go over days of the week and their numbers. How many days has it been? And then they hatch. Well, the problem is that someone's got to take care of these chicks until they're old enough to either be adopted or go to FFA for reptile food, unfortunately. These ones all got adopted. So she has to take them home with her. Well, this time, gosh darn it, usually she'll incubate a dozen eggs. And she might get, if she gets 5 chicks, it's great. Well, this time one of her incubators was kind of not working very well, and she was really worried that none of the eggs were going to incubate. So she incubated twice the number of eggs, because it would be devastating if for the kids that none of the eggs hatch. So she bought a second incubator and did the double number. They all hatched. She had 17. She had 17 chicks. And so she was having to take them home with her on the weekends, because you can't just leave them over a weekend. They have to be fed and cleaned. So she had the 17 baby chicks in this giant dog crate. And so I go over and we play with them. They were adorable. They were so cute. And so I wanted one so bad. But holy smokes, do they grow fast. And they put on a ton of muscle. Well, see how I'm bringing it back? I know some of you are like, oh God, there she goes again. No, I'm bringing it back. I'm bringing it back. Protein. Protein is what is giving them the Legos they need to build up that muscle. So one of the tests we can do is feed my protein. I have this protein configuration of amino acids, and I want to see how efficiently can the body use it. Feed it to a growing chick. And basically what I do is I weigh the chick, I feed it this protein, and then 28 days later, that's just how fast they grow. A little more than 3 weeks later, I weigh them again. And if it is a high quality protein, they are going to have put on a tremendous amount of muscle weight. If it is not a very good protein, they are not going to have grown as quickly as their counterparts. And so this is a pretty easy peasy test to find out how high a quality is the amino acid profile that you're feeding them. And they were so damn cute. I really wanted to keep one. I was even looking up, they sell little chicken harnesses, like I could take them for a walk around the block, but no, I'm not allowed. Apparently my stupid HOA said no. Oh well, probably better off. Finally, we have the biological value. And so the biological value, this is the measurement of availability. So we had our term, the bioavailability, which was how efficiently are you using. Remember, digestible is breaking apart. Bioavailable is actively using the nutrients. How do we measure this? Biological value. So how do I do this? Well, this is really pretty easy peasy. Although again, I don't have the tools to do this. But what we're going to do is we're going to measure the amino acids going in. So again, the analogy of a Lego is perfect. So I count out how many of the blue Legos, how many green Legos, how many red Legos, and I feed the animal those Legos. And I know precisely the amino acid profile. Well, then what I do is I measure what comes out in the poo. How many blue Legos came out? How many red Legos came out? And that tells me the ones that didn't come out were the ones used within the body. Now, am I using, obviously, I'm not counting Legos. What I am in fact measuring is nitrogen. protein is approximately 16% nitrogen. And so if I measure the amount of nitrogen that the protein is contributing, and I measure the amount of protein coming out in the feces, this can give me an idea of how much of that protein was actively utilized in the body. So it's the measure of nitrogen. Now, can other things contribute to nitrogen? Yes. And so the 16% is approximately on average, the amount of nitrogen contained in protein. So if I have a lower percentage or a higher percentage coming out in the feces, that tells me what kind of quality the protein is and how easily was it for my body to utilize it. This 16% will come up and be kind of important when we are looking at things like kidney diets. So those are the 4 tests. How do we know if it's a high quality protein? We can check it against another protein that we know to be a high quality. We can simply break it apart and look at the contribution of the amino acids. We can feed it to a growing chick and just see how quickly do they grow. Or we can simply measure the amount of nitrogen that goes in versus the amount of nitrogen that comes out. All right, so hopefully we are feeding a high quality food all the time. All of the time, you should be feeding a high quality food. But when is it imperative that you're feeding high quality protein and a diverse amino acid profile? Well, it's especially going to be needed, obviously, in periods of growth, because you need the amino acids to facilitate not only muscle growth, but cellular replication. Because we have all of these free amino acids that are building the proteins, that are building DNA, that are sending messages via the RNA. Everything within your body is dependent on these amino acids being reassembled. So during periods of growth, we're going to need to feed a very high quality protein so that they do get all of the amino acids that they need. Physical exertion. Oh my goodness. Whenever you have physical exercise, you're breaking down muscle tissue. Well, you need the amino acids to build that muscle tissue back up. So during physical exertion, it's definitely important that you have a diverse amino acid profile. That's why bodybuilders oftentimes will take like protein powders and protein shakes to help replenish the tissues that they have broken down. Oh my gosh, pregnancy. This one is a no duh. You're creating beings inside of you. These beings are forming muscles and bones and organs, and all of those are made of different types of proteins. And so during pregnancy, especially during the last trimester, dogs and cats are pregnant for about 63 days. That's their gestation. Gestation means from the time they get pregnant to the time they give birth. About 63 days. This is split into 3 21-day terms. And different fetal development stages happen in each of these terms. Now, during the 3rd term, the last 21 days of the pregnancy, this is when the fetus is having the majority of its fetal growth. This is when it is putting on the weight and it is growing dramatically during the last 21 days. So it is super important to make sure that the female is getting the nutrition that they need to support that. And then of course during lactation, because the baby's entire nutritional support system is based on what mom provides it. And then of course repair of damaged tissues. That kind of goes into our physical exertion. If you have to repair something, you need the tools that will be used to repair it. Aww. Here we have some pictures. Here we have, oh, look at this baby. That's a growth and development. That is, in fact, I know some of you are like, there's a Chinese Shar Pei. That is, in fact, a baby Clumber Spaniel. Baby Clumber. And his eyes, his wrinkles, his eyes are actually stuck right inside here. You can't even see them because of the wrinkles. Oh my God, baby Clumbers are my favorite. So yeah, that's a baby Clumber. And even if it was a Chinese Shar Pei, I wouldn't admit it because my arch nemesis in my life was a Chinese Shar Pei. I hated that dog. And I don't even mind that I'm recording right now because you are not required to like every patient that comes into your clinic. You are required to treat them with respect and give them the highest quality medicine. You're not required to like them. And this dog and its name was Toshi. And she and I hated each other on sight. She hated me just as much as I hated her. And, oh, it's okay. She's dead now. So, from old age, my gosh. She was an adult when I left private practice, and I've worked at VTI for 14 years. She'd be like almost 28 years old now. So she's dead now. I can do a little dance later.
I mean, you won, right?
She is awful. Oh my God, she tried to eat my face off. Oh my God. And I was the only one that could restrain her. I was the only one willing to. And her muzzle was so big, we didn't have a muzzle big enough to do it, to put one on. So, and then she was one of those where you restrain her and she's like, yeah, if you've ever had to restrain a Chinese Shar Pei, that's what they do. And she had the hair. Some of them are soft, but they have that sandpaper hair, but this hair would get stuck like pins in my skin, and I'd have to go with tweezers and pull them out like splinters. I'd get them underneath my fingernails and they'd migrate down underneath my nail. My God, I hated that dog. She knocked me unconscious. So there. It was awful. I'll tell you that story later. All right, so here we have growth. Here we have physical exertion, obviously. Pregnancy, this is obviously a Rhodesian Ridgeback, very, very pregnant. And then lactation. So the one thing is that amino acids are not stored in the body like carbohydrates and fats. We don't convert them in the liver to usable energy. We don't store them in the adipose tissue. Basically what happens is our body breaks apart the Legos. The Legos are just kind of free. The single Legos are uploaded into the blood, and then the body can utilize them for whatever purpose we need to utilize them. If we have RNA sending a message to our ribosomes, ribosomes can just kind of pluck the amino acids that they need. They're always available. It's just like plucking fruit out of a tree. So we don't have them stored to call upon. If you go off and don't eat amino acids, if like you're fasting or you are not taking in any protein, your body will become depleted in these amino acids. And because we don't have any stores, we don't have any left over for a rainy day, your body will start breaking down muscle. Now, your body does have a couple of different places that it can start breaking down to replenish these amino acids. The first thing it's going to break down is your skeletal muscle, because technically, can you live without skeletal muscle? Sure you can. The second thing it's going to start doing is selectively breaking down your soft tissue, your organs. The final thing it's going to do, it's going to start breaking down your cardiac muscle, and then you're going to die. And that's where, when we have animals who have been anorexic for any period of time, one of the first things we need to do is do a cardiac check and check their organ function. Because if they are emaciated, we may have some irreparable organ damage. And so we need to check that organ damage, and that'll determine what kind of condition are they really in. So replenishing these amino acids is going to come exclusively from external gluconeogenesis. We are going to have to replenish what we use in our diets. So obviously, now I've got a dog here. I've obviously taken a picture for shock value. This dog is very obviously emaciated. You can very clearly see the ribs. You can see here, this is the spine of the scapula showing through those very heavy shoulder muscles. You can see the entire vertebral column. You can outline very distinctly the wings of the ilium. We have depression here over the eyes where the facial muscles have started to be affected. This animal, you can even see here, look at that. You can see the clear outline of the femur through the quadriceps muscle. This is an animal who is in very dire straits. We have broken down all of the skeletal muscle that we can break down at this point. I'm honestly shocked that this animal is standing up. So once we have broken down all of the skeletal muscle, so all biceps, triceps, quadriceps, all of the intercostal muscles, all of the abdominal muscles, the body has broken those down to use. Then what it's going to start to do is break down our organs. So the first thing we need to do and see if this guy is savable is do an organ check and a cardiac check and see just what kind of damage the body has done in trying to replenish those proteins, those amino acids, because they're not coming in the diet. So obviously signs of protein deficiency, you're going to have a decrease of muscle mass. Well, that's a no duh, because the only place that we can get and replenish these amino acids is from the muscle, breaking down muscle tissue. When you break down muscle tissue, you're going to lose weight. That's also kind of a no duh. You're going to have a dull hair coat. Well, hair is made of protein. I'm certainly not going to sacrifice any kind of protein to my hair, not when my life or death is dependent on it. This is one I want to talk about, anorexia. This is kind of interesting. I'm actually going to do a stop share real quick because I want to see you all. Anorexia. So let's think about this for a minute. Anorexia means the animal refuses to eat. Now the picture of the animal I just showed you, it's pretty dire. Okay, this animal either needs to eat or it's going to die soon. So you would think I would put a big bowl of food in front of it and it would gobble it up. It wouldn't be able to open its mouth wide enough to eat it because his life is dependent on taking in the nutrients. This animal is probably, if we're lucky, gonna have to be force fed. If we're not lucky, we're gonna have to put in a feeding tube because he is not gonna eat. He is gonna turn his nose up. He is gonna fight you putting that food in his mouth. But why? If the only thing standing between him and imminent death is eating something, why is he not willing to do that? Well, this is a really interesting physiological kind of safeguard. So we've all been there. Now, obviously, not to the degree that this dog is in, but we have all been starving. All right, now, especially not so much right now, because any of you can get up and get a snack at any time. You know, meh. However, when we were in class, you are sitting in class, say you've gone to first period, now you're in second period. Oh my God, you have that crazy schedule where you have to go to 3 classes before you have a lunch. And so it's third period, it's the end of third period, and your stomach is growling, singing the song of its people. and all you can think about is what are you going to eat for lunch. We've all been there. You start fantasizing. Oh my God, I've done it in class with you guys on Zoom. When I'm like, do I want Chipotle or do I want my Chinese food? Maybe I would like some poutine. And I'm like talking through my options because I'm so hungry. Honestly, quite rare for me because other things I'll tell you about. Well, here's what's happened with that dog. So when we are hungry, our brain snaps on, our stomach is sending crazy messages to our brain. Hey, I am empty and I need you to like make me not empty. And then your brain starts fantasizing about eating. And what that's doing is preparing your body to eat. By fantasizing about the food that you're going to eat, your stomach starts creating hydrochloric acid in preparation. Your small intestines become far more mobile. They start having that peristalsis. It's almost like they're doing a stretch out before their workout. That's what's giving you the gurgly sound. And I'm willing to bet now that I've been talking about this, the majority of your tummies are in fact kind of gurgly right now and kind of talking to you, because I know mine is. So suddenly, if we put ourselves in the where this dog is, there's no food coming in. And so it would be absolute madness if the stomach just kept sending messages to the brain. And not only that, the brain fantasizing about the food causes the stomach to produce the acid. Well, if nothing ever gets into the stomach to utilize the acid, that acid is going to eventually eat through the lining of the stomach, causing an ulcer. So what has to happen? So imagine, so we're going to go into imagination land. Kind of like that awful movie, and some of you are about to give me a shocked face right now, because I thought it was terrible, terrible movie. Awful. The Matrix. Yeah, it was a movie back, I think some of you are, yeah. The Matrix was I couldn't even get through it. Never mind watching all three, I couldn't even get through the first one. It was terrible. It was awful. But the reason why I bring it up is they have a big plug in the back of their neck. That's kind of like us. We have what I call the hungry switch, and it's a dimmer switch. And so right now, if you guys are starving hungry, the dimmer switch has turned up full. If you don't eat, and we've actually experienced this for ourselves. So your dimmer switch, boop, all the way up, and you're like, oh my God, I can't stand it. My stomach's digesting itself. Holy smokes, I can't wait to eat. And suddenly something gauges your attention, and the dimmer switch starts to turn down, until you're not hungry anymore. And in fact, I have had this happen to me where I am going to class and I think I'm going to die. I am momentarily ravenous. And then I start teaching and I start getting into doing emails and I forget the dimmer switch has turned down. And that's by design, because the longer my dimmer switch is down, my stomach's not producing acid. My small intestines are not, doing strong peristaltic waves. I'm preparing myself for not eating is essentially what's happening. Well, the problem is that I then forget. And sometimes you might have too, where you get home and somebody is cooking, or you pass a fast food restaurant, you get a little whiff, and suddenly you realize, oh my God, I haven't eaten all day. Dimmer switch goes all the way up. And then you are ravenous again and you eat. Well, here's the problem with this poor dog, is that his dimmer switch isn't just turned down, his dimmer switch is turned off. And so his brain is telling his body, we're not getting any food. So stomach, you're just getting laid off. Small intestines, you guys are on standby. We may need to break you down for amino acids. We don't know. We don't know what's happening right now. And so because we don't know when the next meal is coming, instead of this on off, high low, producing acids, not producing acid, it just goes click. And so now the animal has the feeling that it is not hungry at all. And you can't force feed an animal that does not feel hungry. Now, similar to us driving by the fast food restaurant or walking into our home when somebody has cooked something, sometimes we can jumpstart. If you just take some dog food or even better cat food, because it's very, very fragrant, and just scrape it along the top of their mouth. And suddenly just having it on their tongue might be enough to turn the switch back on. Some of these animals, though, their switch is not coming back on. We are going to have to introduce nutrition in a roundabout way. Maybe we'll put in a nasogastric feeding tube, which is a tube that goes in the nose, down the esophagus, and into the stomach. We might even put in, for longer term, an esophagostomy tube, where I put a hole in the esophagus. I bypass the mouth altogether, put a hole in the esophagus, and I can now put, it's almost the thickness of a milkshake, into that tube and have it go down into the stomach. Worst case, I can bypass all of that, put a tube directly into the stomach and do a gastrostomy tube. And that's for long-term feeding. Some of you may have heard of it. Sometimes it's called a PEG, P-E-G, PEG tube. It's a type of feeding tube. Because their hungry switch just won't come back on. So hopefully we can get it turned back on so that they will eat on their own, but no guarantee. So that's kind of the story behind why. Why is it that this animal whose life is dependent on taking in nutrition is turning their nose up at it? It's a really interesting physiological response to starvation. At least I think it's interesting. All right. Get my chat. Oh, and Yennefer, it was just awful because it was awful. The acting was terrible. The characters were two-dimensional. I didn't care about any of them. I didn't care. I didn't even know who was who. I didn't know. I didn't care. And no, couldn't do it.
I mean, I don't like love the movie or anything, and I like, it's fine, but I don't think it's awful.
No, it's awful. I hated it. I couldn't get through. I think I watched maybe the first 30 minutes of it and had to turn it off. It was awful.
What about that movie Jumper?
I liked that movie.
It was.
Is that the one with Bruce Willis?
I don't remember. It has Anakin, like the guy that played Anakin Skywalker.
Oh, I don't know then. I'll have to. I'm sure I've watched it because my significant other and I are kind of movie aficionados. That's what we do all weekend.
It was better.
No, so yeah, but The Matrix, well, I'm not a huge fan. I know he's a countryman, he's a Canadian. I'm supposed to be obligated to like him. I think he's a terrible actor. He is awful. Keanu Reeves.
No, you didn't.
Keanu Reeves is
awful.
awful.
No, Miss Huff, you tripping. You tripping.
I know.
He's gorgeous. And
Have
you seen John Wick?
Have you seen The Lake House?
So here's, oh my God, you guys.
Boring,
okay,
boring,
we're taking a brain break for a second.
You ain't seen.
Anyone have any questions about anything that I have explained?
I was actually going to make a statement that, when the dog is super small like that you're not supposed to like just feed them a whole bunch of food because that can really mess them up. Well,
Yep.
that was reminding me of a long time ago. Have you ever remember about those men that was stuck in those caves?
Yes, the Chilean miners.
Yeah, they were miners. It reminded me of how when they came out, they had to wear sunglasses for a long time because it took time for their eyes to adjust. Because if they just would have came out and saw that sunlight and just see how bright it was, it would mess them up. So it's kind of reminding
yeah.
me of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is also not only something we take into consideration with anorexia in animals, but anorexia in people. Anorexia is a physical response where the hungry switch turns off. And now in humans, it's a little bit more of like a mental, but the physiological response is the same. And you can't just force them to eat a large meal and be like, hey, eat this giant meal. They have to take small meals frequently because their body has not prepared for nutrition for however long this animal has not had anything to eat. So the stomach's not prepared to make the hydrochloric acid to eat a big meal. Small intestines are certainly not prepared to get out of hibernation. And, you know, it's kind of like, let me give you this. So before all this COVID stuff and we were all stuck at home, when you were on campus, I know you guys didn't get to experience this and it's very sad, but you did a little bit. So we had a spring break not long ago, about 3 weeks ago, no classes. And so let's just say, I'm not saying any of you, but let's say if I am a student, I'm just now making myself a student, and for a week, I laid in my bed under my weight. I have this wonderful weighted blanket. It's a 15-pound weighted blanket. If you've never slept under a weighted blanket, oh my God, it's fabulous. The only time I got up was to go to the fridge or go and change from watching Netflix in my bedroom to watching Netflix in my living room because it's closer to the fridge. And I did that for a week. And suddenly Monday comes and I'm expected to teach and do administrative stuff and set up my Moodle and be all excited and do it. I'm not ready to do any of that. I'm not ready at all. Now imagine your poor small intestines. They've been doing a Netflix retreat for as long as this animal has been anorexic. They're not ready to put the muscle into it. So what we need to do is we're going to need to feed this animal tiny meals. And when I say tiny meals, I'm talking like, that's it. That's a meal. One lick of food. That's a meal. But what we're going to be feeding is what we call a recovery diet. And this is a supercharged, super packed caloric intake, where essentially one lick of food is the equivalent calories, energy-wise, as like an entire bowl of regular food. And it has very high digestibility, meaning it's already pretty much digested. It's already broken apart. The stomach and the small intestines don't really have to do any work. It's just getting them back into the swing of it. We're just doing it slowly. We're putting the training wheels back on. And so this is, yeah, absolutely. It's called refeeding syndrome. And this is where if you force too much, their body will reject it and they'll just throw it up. And so it's imperative that you are only feeding a tiny little bit and then increase, and then transition them from the recovery diet to, let's say, a high quality puppy food, which is going to be higher calories, but now we're taking the training wheels off. The stomach and the small intestines are going to have to work a little bit harder. And then we can transition them to a high quality maintenance food where everything is up and running normally. So yeah, starvation and protein deficiency is no joke to treat. It is a long-term treatment. This animal is not getting better by Tuesday. Now the thing is, okay, so all of that I just talked about is an overall protein deficiency. But the thing is, remember, proteins are made of Legos. Every Lego has a job. And if I am deficient in only a single Lego, I can have physical issues. So even if every other Lego need is being addressed, I can still have major issues if one Lego is missing. So right here, this is just a couple of examples. We're going to go into more detail with these specific amino acids, but right here, this is the name of a Lego, arginine. This is the name of one of the Legos. Now, here's the deal. So what does arginine do? In a nutshell, basically what it does is it helps to convert ammonia into urea. So one of the byproducts of our bodies just working is ammonia. And when I say ammonia, I am referring to the same thing that is found in bleach. Arginine helps to convert that into something that is easy for my body to get rid of, specifically in my urine. If I don't have it, I can't do that. So if arginine converts ammonia and I don't have arginine, I can't convert ammonia and it's going to start to build up in my blood. That's going to kill me. That would be no different, think about it, is if I injected you with bleach. Nope, that's not going to work. Regardless of who says it's a cure for COVID, don't inject yourself with bleach. COVIDiot. So even if every other amino acid is in picture perfect amount, the deficiency of this one Lego could cause death. Here I have these guys, methionine and cysteine. Again, I'm talking about just the deficiency in these. Every other amino acid, picture perfect, amazing, everything is doing great, everything is awesome. But if I am deficient in just these, that can cause skin disorders. And that's why when we see these chronic itchy dogs, one of the first things we ask is, what are you feeding? Taurine. Taurine is an essential amino acid in cats, not dogs. Dogs do not need taurine in their diet. Dogs can create taurine for themselves. Cats cannot. And if the cat is deficient in taurine, they'll go blind and they'll have heart failure and they'll die. So this is why feeding a high quality protein that has a diverse amino acid profile, where all of these are being contributed to the protein so that my body's getting all of the essential amino acids that it needs from one source. That's the whole point behind having this high quality protein. So cats, as we know, obligate carnivores. And what that means is they are specifically adapted to a high protein diet, much, much higher than our dogs. So physiologically, what does that mean? Well, protein, as we talked about, protein contains, oops, that's a terrible. Protein contains about 16% nitrogen. And the cat's body is specifically adapted to having a higher percentage than that. Because honestly, the more protein that you intake, the higher this nitrogen amount is going to be. That kind of makes sense. The more protein you take in, the more nitrogen you're going to have. And their kidneys are specific. They're specifically adapted to accommodate for this higher nitrogen. They are also adapted for a low carbohydrate. That's not no carbohydrate, that's low carbohydrate. But what this means is that the cat really doesn't have the ability to utilize stored energy. They have to take in small meals frequently. They need this high protein, and as we discussed, protein doesn't get stored within the body, at least not in a form that we can use to break it down to use. So that's why cats are going to eat, oh my gosh, 12 to 20 meals in a 24-hour period because they don't have any protein reserves and they have a higher need for amino acids, so they're having to take it from the external gluconeogenesis. And so that's why they will go and they will eat and they will pick and they will eat and then they'll leave and their bowl will not be empty. And that's also why it's super important to educate our owner on that fact, because we definitely don't want the owner thinking that the cat is just being picky and finicky and then changing the food. Definitely don't want to do that. So Marissa, no animal truly has a protein storage. As we said at the beginning, protein does not get stored. If you are deficient in protein, the only way that your body can get it is by breaking down your muscles. That's not optimal. So every animal, dogs, humans, cats, none of us have an effective protein storage. Cats just have a higher need physiologically. They need more amino acids to function. They need more protein to function normally. And that's why they have to take in small meals frequently in order to accommodate for that increased amount of amino acids needed in the feline. So does that make sense to everybody? Cats are aliens, man. Cats are aliens. They are different than any other animal on the planet. Aliens. All right, so we've only got a few minutes left. What questions